Everyone told her clay would be her coffin. Then she walked out and beat Grabber without dropping a set. She pushed Ostapenko to the edge. 6 points, that's all that separated her from glory. She earned her place in the Stuttgart main draw, on pure merit. And now, the tennis gods just handed us the most poetically charged first-round draw of the entire 2026 clay season. Put the phone down. Volume all the way up. Airplane mode. Because what happened inside that draw ceremony at the Porsche Tennis Grand Prix isn't just a scheduling decision, it's a cultural detonation. Screenwriters would throw this back. They'd say it's too clean, too loaded with narrative weight, too impossibly perfect. But it's real. Monday, April 13th, Porsche Arena, Stuttgart, Germany, indoor clay. Alexandra Eala versus Leylah Fernandez. The Philippines versus Canada. Filipino blood on both sides of the net. Left hand against left hand. A warrior shaped by the Rafael Nadal Academy against the Filipino-Canadian prodigy who rocked the tennis world at 18 years old by reaching the U.S. Open final. Two women whose roots stretch back to the same 7,000-island archipelago, separated by 21 ranking spots, no prior head-to-head, and entirely different career journeys, about to collide on European red clay at one of the most prestigious indoor tournaments on the WTA calendar. Before you underestimate Leylah Annie Fernandez for even one breath, understand this. That would be the most costly mistake you make all week. Fernandez is not just another name in the draw. She is a 5-time WTA champion. 5 titles. Let that register. Eala has 0. Fernandez has won Monterrey twice. Hong Kong, Washington, D.C., a WTA Osaka. She has been to places on tour that Eala is still building the road to reach. In 2021, at 18 years old, Leylah Fernandez walked into Flushing Meadows and dismantled Naomi Osaka, Angelique Kerber, Alina Svitolina, and Aryna Sabalenka in back-to-back rounds before falling to Emma Raducanu in the final. That is not a resume. That is a war journal. That is the story of a player who has stood inside the biggest cauldron in tennis and answered every question thrown at her. Career high ranking is world number 13. She has held a Grand Slam, final trophy in sight. She is currently ranked 25th globally, 21 places above Eala, coached by her father Jorge, who has built her game from scratch on a foundation of aggression, tactical variation, and an uncanny ability to elevate when the stakes are highest. She speaks 3 languages. She won the Roland Garros Junior title in 2019, becoming the first Canadian to claim a junior Grand Slam since Eugenie Bouchard, and her mother is Filipino-Canadian. That single detail is what transforms this match from a compelling draw result into something the tennis world has genuinely never seen. Leylah Fernandez has Filipino blood. She has spoken openly about her heritage, identifying as both Filipino and Latina. Her mother, Irene, carries the lineage that ties Fernandez to the same 115 million people who stand behind Alexandra Eala every time she walks on court. 2 players with Filipino roots facing each other on the WTA Tour for the first time in history, on indoor clay in Germany, with a second-round date against 5th seed Jasmine Paolini waiting on the other side. The Eala army does not boo opponents. It does not disrespect rivals. But it does not waver. And on Monday, every drop of loyalty belongs to Alexandra Eala. Now, let's get into the tactical architecture of this thing, because this is where the match becomes genuinely extraordinary. Both players are left-handed. In professional tennis, that's a rare species, left-handers make up roughly 10% of the tour. When 2 of them face each other, the geometry of the entire court flips upside down. Every weapon both players use to unravel right-handed opponents gets neutralized the eye moment they step across from a fellow southpaw. The wide serve into the ad court that normally pulls opponents off the baseline now curves directly into Fernandez's forehand. The cross-court forehand that typically attacks the backhand now feeds the opponent's strength instead. Every tactical blueprint both players have spent years developing has to be rebuilt in real time. This is a mirror match, a chess game where both sides are playing with the same colored pieces. And that mirror creates something extraordinary for Eala because Fernandez, in so many ways, is a preview of what Eala could look like in 2 or 3 years. Fernandez is 23, Eala is 20. Fernandez has 5 titles, Eala has none. Fernandez has reached a Grand Slam final. Eala has never moved past the first round of a major. The experience gap is undeniable. But the trajectory gap tells an entirely different story. Fernandez's 2026 season has been brutal. 4 wins and 9 losses heading into Stuttgart. That is not the form line of a player operating near her ceiling. It is the record of someone searching for the version of herself that once dismantled the world's best on the grandest stage of all. Knocked out early in Brisbane, Adelaide, the Australian Open, Abu Dhabi, Doha, Dubai, Indian Wells, Miami, the confidence that once carried her through 5 consecutive wins over top 10 opponents at Flushing Meadows is flickering. Not gone, but flickering. Meanwhile, Eala arrives in Stuttgart, carrying a 15-9 season record that includes a semi-final in Auckland, quarterfinals in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, 4th-round finishes at Indian Wells and Miami, a career-high ranking of world number 29, wins over Donna Vekic, Jasmine Paolini, and Diane Parry, plus a 2-set loss to Ostapenko on clay, decided by 6 total points. The momentum is Eala's. The form is Eala's. And the hunger, that raw, unrelenting, almost desperate hunger for a first WTA title, belongs entirely to Eala. In tennis, hunger is a weapon that talent alone cannot defend against forever, but talent is precisely what makes Fernandez dangerous even at half capacity. Her forehand is a precision instrument capable of changing direction mid-swing. Her backhand produces angles that geometry can barely diagram. At 5 feet 6 inches, her footwork is so efficient that she covers ground like a player 4 inches taller, teleporting. Between shots, never out of position, and her competitive fire. The same fire that produced some of the most iconic fist pumps and screams the sport has witnessed over the past decade can reignite without warning. Fernandez does not need form. She needs a spark. One early break, one forehand winner kissing the baseline, one emotional reaction from a crowd, and suddenly a 4-9 record evaporates and a Grand Slam finalist reappeals. That is exactly why Eala must bring the same approach she carried into the Ostapenko match in Linz. Not the result, the approach. The 88% first serve accuracy, the clinical conversion on breakpoints, the tactical discipline that kept her within 6 points of a former French Open champion on clay. If she brings that level to the Porsche Arena on Monday, Fernandez's 2026 form will not hold under that pressure. But the second serve. The second serve cannot go unchanged. That 0% second serve win rate against Ostapenko was the margin between victory and defeat. Fernandez is an aggressive returner with elite timing. A weak second ball will be punished with the same ruthlessness, maybe more. The Nadal Academy has had nearly a week to address this precisely. Spin rate, placement, disguise, keeping the ball out of the center of the service box where Fernandez can load up and dictate. Even a marginal improvement on that second delivery shifts the entire tactical equation in Eala's favor. The surface adds another dimension. Stuttgart's Porsche Arena plays on indoor clay, which behaves differently from the outdoor dirt in Linz. The bounce is more predictable. No wind interference, controlled lighting, marginally faster court, speed due to precisely managed surface conditions. For Eala, who has now accumulated 2 competitive clay matches in Linz, the indoor environment could actually work in her favor. The consistency of the bounce eliminates one variable. The controlled conditions help her time the ball, and the slightly faster surface complements her aggressive return game, a game that won 36.7% of return points across her 2026 season. For Fernandez, arriving from Charleston's green clay having won just 1 match before exiting early, the adjustment presents its own challenge. Her 2026 clay record sits at 1-1, not enough to suggest she's found rhythm on dirt, not disastrous enough to suggest she can't. It is a coin flip. And coin flips in first-round WTA 500 matches are exactly the kind of high-variance moments where the Eala army tends to rise. Let's talk about what's waiting on the other side of Monday, because this draw is drenched in narrative potential. Beat Fernandez and Eala faces 5th seed Jasmine Paolini, the Italian, the 2024 French Open finalist. The same player Eala dismantled 6-1, 7-6 in Dubai earlier this year in one of the most dominant performances of her entire career. Get past Paolini and the quarterfinal picture features Elena Rybakina or Diana Schneider, and the projected semifinal opponent, Swiatek, has just added Francisco Roig to her coaching corner, the former Nadal coach. The very coaching philosophy that shaped the academy where Eala trains every day. The media hasn't even begun to explore that thread. This draw is not a bracket, it is a screenplay. And the opening scene? Eala versus Fernandez on indoor clay at the Porsche Arena. Unfolds in front of a Porsche 911 Carrera S Cabriolet sitting courtside, waiting for whoever survives 5 rounds of the most competitive WTA 500 field of the season. But before any of that matters, Monday has to happen. The first serve has to fly. The first rally has to breathe. 2 left-handed athletes with Filipino heritage have to step onto opposite sides of that net and compete for something larger than a spot in the second round. They're competing for momentum, for ranking points, for the confidence they'll carry into Madrid and Roland Garros. And in Ayala's case, she's competing to continue a clay court story that began with a straight-set win over Grabber, deepened through a heartbreaking 6-point loss to Ostapenko, and now enters its 3rd chapter against a former Grand Slam finalist on the most iconic indoor clay floor in the WTA world. Full mobilization, Eala Army. Share this video immediately. Tag every Filipino tennis account. Tag every Canadian tennis account. Let the world understand that the most culturally loaded first-round match of the entire 2026 clay season is arriving Monday at the Porsche Arena. Flood the comments with your prediction. Tell me how Eala should solve the left vs left geometry. Tell me which serve patterns work against a left-handed returner with Fernandez's timing and return positioning. Tell me how she manages the second serve vulnerability after Lin's. I want the comments transformed into a tactical laboratory. Drop the Philippine flag, drop the fire. Let the algorithm know, when Stuttgart drew Eala against Fernandez, they didn't schedule a tennis match. They ignited a global conversation about heritage, identity, and the unstoppable ascent of Filipino tennis. 2 left hands, 2 Filipino hearts, 1 court, 1 winner, and the Porsche Arena has absolutely no idea what's about to walk through its doors. Let me leave you with this, because it's the kind of thought that defines the Eala Army. As different from every other fan base in the sport, the establishment wants to frame Monday as a mismatch. World number 25 versus number 46. 5 titles to 0. Grand Slam finalist against a player who has never cleared the first round of a major. On paper, the hierarchy is obvious. Every prediction, model, every algorithm, every bookmaker leans Fernandez. Demers gives her a 56% win probability. The rankings say she should win, the title count agrees. But paper does not play tennis. Paper cannot measure the trajectory of a player who has won 15 matches in 2026 against an opponent who has won 4. Paper cannot see the look in the eyes of a 20-year-old who came within 6 points of dethroning a Grand Slam champion on clay 6 days ago and immediately entered another tournament instead of going home to rest. Paper cannot calculate what it means to train every single day at the Rafael Nadal Academy, absorbing the mentality of the greatest competitor this sport has ever produced, learning to treat every match as a final, every point as a fight for survival. And paper absolutely cannot account for what happens when 115 million Filipinos lock into a live stream simultaneously.